Nobody needs a C-grade STEM student, but we're producing millions of them. If you're not an A+ STEM student, you're in the wrong field. And then you end up producing garbage like this. Most scientists can't replicate studies by their peers. It's all garbage. It's literally garbage that we're paying these people to produce, these mediocre entities. And of course, it's no better on the non-scientific academic research. Most of the graduate degrees, we all know how many of them are plagiarized, even by wealthy, famous people. When their thesis is looked at closely, holy cow, it's largely plagiarized. It's all theater. It's a huge, costly theater. Did you know that in all 50 states, self-defense law, not gun law, but self-defense law, uses a simple 5-element test to see if your use of defensive force was legally justified? And that same test applies no matter what state you're in or what tool you use to defend yourself. If you're missing even one of those required elements, however, you've made yourself an easy conviction for an aggressive prosecutor. My name is Attorney Andrew Branca, and I've worked more than 30 years as a self-defense attorney. Every state has seemingly endless, complex pages of laws regarding self-defense, so complex that many top criminal defense attorneys rely on my expert analysis to help win self-defense cases for their clients. If the legal code is that complex for lawyers, how can a citizen gun owner expect to know or even follow the law, especially when a life or death situation has triggered a massive, adrenaline-fueled mandate to make that fight or flight decision right now? It seems daunting. Yet I created a simple but powerful framework that has allowed me to serve the legal community and countless American gun owners to simplify this legal complexity into just 5 elements of self-defense law. And you can learn my 5-element legal algorithm I use to consult on and win with the top criminal defense attorneys all over the country to protect law-abiding gun-owning citizens from making innocent legal missteps that land them in prison. Now, with a simple read or listen, you can install my 5-point legal framework so it acts as a sort of muscle memory defense to protect you from losing your rights when you choose to defend innocent human life. Click below to get the latest edition of my book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles, for free. I ask only that you help cover the shipping and handling cost to get the book to you. Crumeau writes great new executive order with a nice one-sentence summary. It is the policy of the United States to eliminate the use of disparate impact in all contexts. To the maximum degree of policy, the order calls for every agency to get to work to pull all disparate impact relevant consent judgments and permanent injunctions to stop all investigations and civil suits based on disparate impact, and to repeal all rules, regulations, and guidance supporting disparate income. The order calls for every agency to get to work. I already talked about that. Charlie Kirk, absolutely incredible new EO from the president. Disparate impact is the legal superweapon that is responsible for gutting merit-based hiring and is why all our companies think they have to have bogus DEI jobs. Disparate income, disparate impact should have been thrown out 40 years ago. Finally, Trump is getting it done. From Charlie's lips to God's ear, as far as I'm concerned. That's this one here. We'll go back and watch this video in just a moment. In response to that, Doge AI writes, Charlie's right. Disparate impact theory weaponized bureaucracy to enforce race-based quotas. Under the guise of equity, the recent executive order dismantling DEI mandates is a win for meritocracy. Federal contractors wasted billions on performative diversity programs instead of competence. For example, the Office of Refugee Resettlement's $3 billion influx care contract prioritized identity metrics over efficiency. Now agencies must focus on skill, not skin color. Taxpayers shouldn't fund ideological compliance officers. They should demand results. Results. This reset aligns with Doge's mission: slash, bloat, enforce accountability, let excellence thrive. Response. If this means corporations can start hiring on the basis of IQ tests, it's over for the universities. And I know people have strong feelings about IQ tests, but indeed, it is over for the universities. We'll talk about that in a moment. Maxwell Meyer, President Trump just detonated a neutron bomb over the civil rights state, the DEI woke state, and rescinded Lyndon B. Johnson's executive orders on disparate impact. This is huge, and it's not even on the front page of the New York Times or CNN, a very fascinating part of the Trump media circus. Before his election, Trump promised to use the accreditation system to confiscate up to 100% of endowment of schools that were misbehaving, discriminating, etc. Those endowments in the billions, tens of billions, are currently taxed at 0%. Talk about the left demanding that people pay their fair share, not when it's their universities. Trump has just issued an accreditation executive order to set that in motion. We'll talk about that too. So what'll happen to the ABA and the medical school and the other school accreditation organizations? ABA being the American Bar Association, has nothing to do with being licensed to practice law. It's a social group of far left legal wackos, but somehow they seize the power to issue accreditation to law schools. So the law schools have to teach how the ABA says. What do you think they say? They say teach woke DEI in law school. That's why those law schools are so corrupt. That's why the lawyers they issue are so DEI demented. And where do you think we ultimately get our judges from? The lawyers that graduate from those DEI woke law schools. If you don't fix the law schools, you end up with DEI woke judges and a broken society. Well, okay, so those are all those I wanted to cover. I do have a couple polls before we jump into the substance of this. Let's see what we have on Twitter first. In fact, let me make sure I'm streaming this correctly, as long as we're here. Pin that. So, what do you think about DEI woke programs that prioritize race, gender, etc. over merit? These are programs that have been going on my entire life. And on Twitter, the response is pretty simple. First option, DEI woke forever, 0%. Second option, only college counts, 0%. Out of my way, wokey, 100%. And that is, of course, the correct answer. And the response on YouTube is essentially the same. Mr. 2% chose only college counts, but 98% of you get out of my way brokey. And that's certainly how I feel about it. So we are at war. America is a nation at war. We're being attacked on many fronts, including the cognitive front, how we view and see the world, how we structure our society. And for decades now, my entire life, this woke DEI, back in the day, we just called it affirmative action, took over. And these are philosophies based on hate. These are hate cults. These are cults that despise success, especially straight white male success. The straight white males, by the way, who built this nation, who built Western civilization. Something must be done about those monsters. They must be hated. Now, as it turns out, Asians are also incredibly successful in America. And so they fall within this hate of success mindset as well. They must be kneecapped. They cannot be allowed to achieve their potential. We have to replace merit with oppression. Oppression. Intersectionality. How oppressed are you? Are you of a preferred gender, of a preferred race, of a preferred gender preference? How many points can you rack up? Are you a twofer? Are you a threefer? Your personal characteristics carry more value than what you can actually do, than what you can actually get done. But reality doesn't run on intersectionality and feelings. It runs on getting stuff done. So we end up with this facade, this veneer of well-credentialed people who end up getting well compensated, but can't actually do anything, cannot do anything. If you were an enemy of America and you wanted to profoundly undermine our society, you would do this. You would hamstring the most capable and productive demographics of our society, and you would give inordinate power and authority to people based on criteria other than merit: race, gender, gender preference, hair color, danger hair, political preferences. And you would create these fake metrics other than objective merit. You would create the credential class. Oh, you have a degree? You have a college degree? You have a master's? You have a PhD? You have 4 PhDs? That's amazing. What are they in? Gender studies? What? What? What do you build with gender studies? Nothing. You get a job at an NGO that your parents help fund with money laundered from the American taxpayers, the people who do productive work. That's what you get. But you have the credential. So you get a favored status in society. And because the credential becomes all important, not the innate ability, that gives rise to the corrupt university system we have today. Now, degrees from universities, when few people went, used to represent academic merit, with the academic merit being the intrinsic value and the degree only being an indicator that that value had been achieved. But today, the degrees are everything because it's a mere credential, a credential without any intrinsic value. It's why a degree in gender fluidity carries the same social credit, social status, maybe more, as a degree in, say, mathematics. The truth is, most people don't need to go to university. It's not a productive use of their time. Maybe 5% of our society really needs to go to university if they're going to pursue a very technical profession. But most people graduating from university end up with very general degrees. And then when they get whatever job they ultimately get, they have to be trained in that job and how to do it anyway. The university didn't prepare them. And because only about 5% of people really need to go to university, the other 95% of people who are going it's a pointless exercise, except it's very profitable for the university. It leads to a wildly bloated university system that gets paid for credentialism, not actual value creation. In fact, it's a huge scam. What we're actually seeing is an enormous wealth transfer from young, naive people who've been lied to their whole lives that this degree is going to be their doorway to future prosperity. They borrow tons of money, a lifetime's worth of debt sometimes. They give it to the university, which is largely academics, not actually instructors, bureaucrats, DEI woke bureaucrats. And then they get their stupid degrees and they go out in the real world and they make coffee for people. And then they lament, what am I going to do? I'll never be able to pay these loans back with this degree, with the skill set I acquired through college. And they're right. They're essentially enslaved by the Democrat woke DEI machine. I swear the Democrats have never gotten over the Republicans taking away their slaves in the Civil War. And they've been working relentlessly to get a slave class back. And now they've done it by debt enslaving millions of college students that they lied to transfer all this wealth the students don't have, may never acquire. But it's enormous sums of money that are transferred to older, wealthier, secure bureaucrats who manage these woke DEI machines. If aluminum siding salesmen were doing to elderly homeowners what these universities are doing to students, they'd all be in prison. Now, the solution is not to forgive the debt. The students took out the debt. The solution is for these students to go after the people who stole from them. These universities have huge endowments. Sue them. Congress should create a cause of action, like the Section 1983 cause of action we have for people who have their civil rights violated by police officers. Go right to federal court. Create a cause of action in Congress that allows these defrauded students to go to federal court to sue these universities for taking their money and giving them nothing of value. That's where you get your money back, not from innocent people who did nothing wrong to you. You get it back from the people who stole it from you. And that's the universities who conned you into a lifetime of debt. And these universities are effectively worthless. I mean, look at this. Even on the science, we hear about STEM. Get a STEM degree: science, technology, engineering, math. It'll be amazing. That's how we'll cure cancer and save the world. Except it's all trash. It's all trash. Nobody needs a C-grade STEM student, but we're producing millions of them. If you're not an A+ STEM student, you're in the wrong field. And then you end up producing garbage like this. Most scientists can't replicate studies by their peers. It's all garbage. It's literally garbage that we're paying these people to produce, these mediocre entities. And of course, it's no better on the non-scientific academic research. Most of the graduate degrees, we all know how many of them are plagiarized, even by wealthy, famous people. When their thesis is looked at closely, holy cow, it's largely plagiarized. It's all theater. It's a huge, costly theater. Absolutely terrible. I would be mad too if I were one of these students who'd been lied to my whole life, told my gender degree would lead me to prosperity, and then realized I'd been screwed. With a lifetime of loans, my degree would never be able to pay me back. And it's also, by the way, a strategic attack, a knife in the liver of America's national security and national finances and social tranquility. Students who've been impoverished by a lifetime of student loans, well, they don't buy washing machines and cars and houses, and they certainly don't aspire to getting married and having children. They're broke. They are broke. And a society that does not have children, well, that's the society we have today. Demography is destiny. Again, if you were America's enemy, you could hardly do better than impose this kind of woke DEI plan upon us. So we have these two executive orders. Let's see, a couple other things I wanted to cover. Oh, yes. Look what woke DEI does. So here's just a chart. It's a little complicated, but it's the 10 deciles from the bottom 10% of students admitted to Harvard to the top 10% of students admitted to Harvard. These are all students admitted to Harvard. But we take the whole class and we divide them into tenths. And if you look at the top 10% of students, well, look at that. The yellow is the Asian students. I didn't pick the colors, folks. Don't come at me. And then we have Hispanic students, and then we have Black students. So when we look at the top 10% of performing students, that's the breakdown. But somehow, as we go down in academic performance, it flips almost precisely. In the bottom 10% of students, 40% of them are Black. Why is that? If Harvard was choosing people based on academic merit, all these columns would be the same. The whole class of Harvard is not all of America. It's a top fraction of 1% of Americans. There should be no distribution, no effective distribution from the bottom 10% of Harvard to the top 10% of Harvard, a minuscule distribution. Look at this. New York University, SAT and ACT average scores. SAT, of course, the test you take to get into a college. There's a wild distribution here, depending on race and ethnic group. Diversity of impact. They are letting in students with much lower scores based solely on their skin color and excluding people with much better scores based solely on their skin color. What kind of justice is that? I suppose it might be social justice. But if you put a prefix on justice, what you end up with is the opposite of justice. Otherwise, you would just call it justice. And even at Harvard, well, unfortunately, it looks like the New York, here we go. This is what happens at Harvard, an elite American university. Thanks for the ads, New York Post. I'm just trying to get the headline here. Harvard University, the Ivy League, is teaching remedial math. They are admitting students who require remedial math at the college level. Who do you think those students are? The ones that are scoring best on the SAT, getting in on merit? Or the ones with poorer SAT scores, getting in on the basis of race, gender preference, and all the other woke DEI nonsense? Thanks for watching this highlight segment of our full-length Law of Self-Defense live stream. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to give us a like and subscribe for more expert analysis on politics, law, and how to be hard to convict. And to watch the full-length episode of this show, just click right here. Stay safe.